So I just watched Karate Kid Legends, directed by Jonathan Entwistle and written by Rob Lieber. Now, I have to say, I'm admittedly not a huge fan of the Karate Kid franchise. Like, my favorite one out of all of them is actually probably the Jaden Smith one. And actually, that's kind of why I wanted to check this one out because I was just surprised to see Jackie Chan return as Mr. Han. I really liked him in the Jane Smith Karate Kid. I thought he was a good replacement for Pat Morita. So now that I've seen this newest installment in the Karate Kid franchise, this one turned out like all right, I guess. I guess it was passable, but it's definitely one of the weaker entries in the whole franchise. So yeah, to get the probably one of the weakest elements out of the way, the directing and editing in this movie aren't very good. Like there are way too many quick cuts. I couldn't count many shots that lasted longer than a couple seconds. There are these weird Ang Lee's Hulk style editing choices where shots will like slide across the screen. Like you'll have a shot and then whoosh, slide along. Now there's a new shot, and then that slide shot goes along, and now there's another new shot. And then sometimes there'll be these points where there are different angles on the screen at the same time. Like this part of the screen will show something, and then the rest of the screen over here will show like another character's perspective of that same scene. And it just looks really weird and not a fan of that. And then there are like scenes that like realistically should probably be like 2 or 3 minutes long, but they're only like a couple seconds, particularly involving convincing the mother, Ming Na Wen, to allow her son to fight. And there are a lot of YouTube style edits, like in the opening when Jackie Chan is teaching these students, like the Chinese characters or the Chinese alphabet of what he's saying, like just appears on the screen by his mouth. And then in like the middle of the like letters, you'll have the English words that he's saying, and it looks like a YouTube video. The graphics during the tournament in this movie look like a Mr. Beast video. Like it legit just looks like I'm watching a Mr. Beast video during the final tournament, and it really sucks you out of the movie. The choreography and the fight scenes, despite the jank directing, is still good. And I like how the lead in this, Ben Wang, fights similar to how Jackie Chan always fights, like using the environment around him, some like messing up and sometimes using that to his advantage, even sometimes like using some of his opponents as weapons against his other opponents. And it like really reflects how Jackie Chan is his mentor and how he taught him everything he knows, which was pretty cool. And then, really, the main problem of the movie, though, is that this movie is like two different movies conflicting with each other. Like, you have the one movie that we start with, where it's the main character teaching this old retired boxer kung fu, and so he can win a fight and get some money to keep his pizza shop. And then you have the other movie where it's the main character having to get into a tournament to stop this bully and to help out his friend but get some money. And one of these is actually engaging because it felt like different from most other Karate Kid movies. And the other movie felt like just what every other Karate Kid movie has already done and doesn't do it exceptionally well. So there's not really much of a point to it. I guess I'll start with the first movie that it decides to do since that's the part that I actually liked. Ben Wang, Joshua Jackson, and Sadie Stanley, I thought all do a good job here. They all work well off each other, and their scenes are pretty engaging, and I think they all have good chemistry together. And again, I do like how Ben Wang teaches Joshua Jackson in a similar way to how Jackie Chan taught Jaden Smith in his Karate Kid movie. Again, I think it does a good job reflecting how Jackie Chan is his mentor. There is a very cheesy scene that happens around the time of the fight in this part of the movie. Without going into spoilers, as soon as this character does something, you know something bad is going to happen to this character. And this scene also contains a very obvious callback to the sweep the legs scene in the first Karate Kid, which I don't know, just felt like that part just felt like pandering fan service and was supposed to be like a serious scene. And moving on to the second movie that the movie decides to be, I do think, Jackie Chan is the main reason I decided to check this out, and I thought he was still very likable here. Like, the reason he comes to New York feels a little forced, and the reason Jackie Chan meets up with Ralph Macchio feels even more forced. Like, they really wanted to cram these two universes together when I kind of just assumed that, like, the 2010s Karate Kid movie and the Ralph Macchio Karate Kid movies like different universes and they didn't exist together. Because if so, like, they do reveal that Jackie Chan actually knows who Mr. Miyagi is. And Jackie Chan never realized that he's actually very similar to Mr. Miyagi and that he takes in this kid who doesn't know anything about Kung Fu and teaches him everything he knows so he can win a tournament. He never notices how similar their lives are in that regard. Okay. And speaking of Ralph Macchio, I actually thought his performance in this was like a little wooden. Like, it felt like Jackie Chan wanted to be there, but it kind of felt like Ralph Macchio was just there to cash a paycheck. And Ming Na Wen wasn't really that great here either. Like, she definitely read her lines, but that's all I can really say. Aramis Knight in this movie just feels like every other bully character that's ever been in this franchise, and he does not have the charisma of, I believe, Johnny Lawrence, I think, is the bully from the first movie's name, or the just ferocity of the bully from the Jaden Smith Karate Kid movie. And there are just things in this movie that are in this movie that are just flat out ridiculous. Like, thugs show up to beat up Ben Wang in broad daylight, and nobody calls the cops or anything. He just fights them in the street with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, and they walk away. Nobody suffers any consequences for any of that. Multiple characters in this movie literally assault the ref during a fight. Like, they just push him off, push him away. And again, no consequences, no penalties. Like, in a real match, that person will probably automatically be disqualified. But no, that's fine, whatever. Just don't do that again. And there is a scene in this where Ralph Macchio gives Ben Wang mementos of Pat Morita. And he's like, I always wanted to teach someone else the way he taught me. And it's like, don't you have kids in that Cobra Kai show? Don't you have like a whole dojo of students in that show? You don't give any of them these things, but you give them to this kid. You reluctantly decided to train because Jackie Chan guilted you into it. And you've barely known him for like a week, and you're like, here you go, have this. Okay, sure, okay. Wyatt Olaf in the movie is like the comic relief best friend. I thought was kind of annoying. Like, he just felt like a ripoff of Greg from Everybody Hates Chris. He literally even says, "Dude, you're so in," which is only one word away from "you're so in there." I did find it kind of funny that Mutt from Schitt's Creek was the villain in this. Like, he's not. It doesn't give like a great performance or anything, and the character isn't that great. But it's just funny that he's there. The score by Dominic Lewis I thought was good. It kind of reincorporates aspects of Bill Conti's original score from the 80s Karate Kid, which I liked. But the actual songs that were used in the movie were pretty weird and they felt very out of place. Like, it literally just felt like, hey, put on whatever these studio executives think the kids are listening to these days. And every time the film cuts to California, because that's where Ralph Macchio lives, it plays that California song that goes California in the city, and it gets stupider every time because first time it wanted to be like, hey, look, Jackie Chan's in California now, and then it keeps playing it to remind you, hey, just to remind you, Ralph Macchio lives in California. Like, we know, we were able to piece together that's where he is. And one last thing I will say, I hate the beginning of this movie just because it uses AI to recreate Pat Morita. Like, I'm already not a fan of AI being used in Hollywood, but the fact that they're recreating this dead person while also trying to pay tribute to him feels extremely disrespectful. Like, really, they should have just like tried to see if they could use on, like, obviously they're not going to be able to tell this whole story with him, but like there must have been some other way they could have worked him in and not have to resort to AI in this way. So overall, I would say this is a pretty underwhelming legacy sequel. I would say only really check it out if you're like a huge Karate Kid fan and you kind of want to just say you've seen all of them. I do hope that the lead in this, Ben Wang, has a long career ahead of him because the charm and charisma he has in this, I think he deserves it, and I hope he has a career in martial arts after this. And I'm going to give Karate Kid Legacy a D. There is a kind of funny cameo in the mid-credit scene, so if you do watch the movie, stick around for that. So those are my thoughts on the Karate Kid Legends. I just realized I said Legacy. It's called Karate Kid Legends. Those are my thoughts on Karate Kid Legends. If you've seen the movie, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to see more reviews like this in the future. And on that note, I will see you next time. Have a great day.